What if I told you that the province everyone pictures as flat, icy, and forgettable actually holds the only spot in all of North America where water splits and heads toward three different oceans: the Pacific, the Atlantic via Hudson Bay, and the Arctic, all from a single mountain? It's a landlocked region with no coastline, yet it feeds three seas. And what if I added that the same place once recorded a temperature just 2 degrees shy of the average surface of Mars, while later in the same era it hit highs that could rival Phoenix, Arizona? Those are just two of the wild geography facts about Alberta, and after this, you'll never call it a flyover province again. From the coldest reading in Canadian history to a rock slide that buried a town in 90 seconds and reshaped national law, here are the facts most Canadians don't know about the land they call home. Let's jump in. Fact: 30 bigger than most countries. Most people picture Alberta as a modest, middle-of-the-road Canadian province. In reality, it spreads over 255,541 square miles. That's enough to swallow France with room left over, and you could fit the entire United Kingdom inside it twice. If Alberta were a sovereign nation, it would sit around 36th on the world size list, edging out France, Thailand, and Spain. The quiet middle province is larger than many nations folks usually think of as big. A fact 29, a border that never belongs. We tend to assume borders hug rivers, ridges, or other natural features. Alberta's southern line with Montana, however, is a perfectly straight 180-mile stretch drawn along the 49th parallel. No river, no mountain, just pure geometry measured in a meeting room with a ruler. It's one of the longest uninterrupted, straight-line international borders on the planet. Yet the land itself never recognized it. The geese that cross it certainly don't. Fact 28, 2 provinces in 1E. Think of Alberta as a cold, flat prairie. Drive from the U.S. Border to the Northwest Territories line, roughly 758 miles, about the distance from New York City to Detroit, and you'll cross short grass prairie, aspen parkland, boreal forest, taiga, and muskeg. The Alberta at the southern edge and the Alberta at the northern edge share a name, but almost nothing else. It's like looking at two different planets. In truth, there isn't a single Alberta. There are 5 distinct ecological zones. Fact 27, shaped by Earth's curvature, provincial borders are political, not natural. Alberta's eastern and western limits follow lines of longitude, which converge as you head north because the Earth is a sphere. At the southern edge, the province is about 180 miles wide. By the northern border, it swells to roughly 398 miles, more than double. No cartographer designed this shape the planet did. A Civic Fact 26.6, UNESCO sites. When you hear UNESCO World Heritage, you probably think of ancient ruins in Rome, Egypt, or Southeast Asia. Alberta, however, boasts 6 such sites. Greece, with 3,000 years of recorded history, has 18. One Canadian province holding a third of Greece's count isn't a coincidence. It shows how irreplaceable Alberta truly is. Fact 25, the roof of the Rockies. Most Canadians can't name Alberta's highest summit. Mount Columbia, perched at 12,293 feet above the tree line, stands as the province's pinnacle and the second highest peak in all of Canada. There's no tourist center, no visitor hub, just a lonely, wind-battered crown that doesn't care about crowds. Fact 24, the melting roof. Glaciers are supposed to be permanent, ancient ice surviving millennia. The Columbia Icefield, covering 125 square miles, is the largest ice mass in the Rockies south of Alaska. Yet it's shedding roughly 16 feet of thickness each year and has retreated over a mile since 1890. You can walk to where the ice once lay and watch it disappear before your eyes. Fact 23, the mountain that feeds 3 oceans. Alberta has no coastline, so one would assume all its water drains toward the Arctic. Snow Dome proves otherwise. Sitting at the hydrological apex, its slopes send water toward the Pacific, the Atlantic via Hudson Bay, and the Arctic simultaneously. It's the only point in North America where a single drop can end up in 3 different oceans. Sex headed fact 22, the longest undammed river. Most major rivers in populated areas have been dammed for power or flood control. The Athabasca River, however, begins as glacial meltwater and runs a full 765 miles without any dam. It cuts through Jasper, the oil sands, and the Peace Athabasca Delta, one of the world's largest inland freshwater deltas. That fact 21, the lake Alberta doesn't own. Lake Athabasca spans 3,030 square miles and reaches 407 feet deep, making it the deepest spot in the prairies. Yet about 74% of its surface lies in neighboring Saskatchewan. Alberta's largest lake is mostly a neighbor's lake. East Secret Fact 20 mountains that were once seafloor around 75 million years ago, the western interior Seway split North America, turning present-day Alberta into a shallow marine basin. In Waterton Lakes National Park, limestone peaks still bear fossilized ripple marks, the preserved imprints of ancient waves. The mountains we see today were once ocean floor. Sex fact 19, the world's most valuable wasteland, Badlands sound barren, but Dinosaur Provincial Park sits there and has produced over 300 complete dinosaur skeletons from at least 35 species, the highest concentration of dinosaur fossils ever found in a single area on Earth. The Westland is actually a massive library of prehistoric life. State fact 18, the fault where time runs backward. Geology teaches that older rocks sit beneath younger ones. The Lewis thrust fault flips this rule. Rocks 1.5 billion years old were thrust over rocks only 70 million years old. Alberta hosts a mountain range where time appears to run backward. State fact 17, the oldest life you can touch. A stromatolites, fossilized colonies of cyanobacteria that lived 3.5 billion years ago and helped oxygenate the planet, are exposed in several spots across Alberta. You can literally place your hand on evidence of life that predates fish, insects, and even plants without stepping into a museum. Fact 16, hills that survived the Ice Age. When the last ice sheet covered most of Canada, the Cypress Hills in southeastern Alberta rose to 4,810 feet, high enough for the glacier to flow around them. While much of the continent was buried under a mile-thick ice sheet, these hills stayed ice-free, preserving unique ecosystems found nowhere nearby. Fighters for Sex Fact 15 to 78 degree F says, on February 9, 1911, Fort Vermilion plunged to minus 78 degrees F. At that temperature, exposed skin freezes in under a minute, diesel gels, and steel becomes brittle. That's just 2 degrees warmer than the average surface temperature on Mars. Fact 14, 110 degree F in the Shady. Fast forward to July 18, 1941, when Fort Macleod recorded a scorching 110 Greg F. Between that high and the 1911 low, Alberta experienced a temperature swing of 188 grade F. The province that once neared Martian cold also topped Texas for heat. Fact 13, the wind that rewrites winters in Alberta are long and bitter, but the Chinook wind, a warm, dry gust blowing off the Rockies, can raise temperatures by 40 degrees Fahrenheit in under an hour. Snow vanishes, people wander in t-shirts in February, then the wind stops and the province remembers it's still winter. Fact 12, the sunniest province nobody expects. Alberta sits far north, often dark and overcast, yet it receives more sunshine annually than any other Canadian province. Some areas average over 2,300 hours of sun each year. Edmonton, for example, can outshine Miami during certain months despite its higher latitude. Fact 11, Black Friday tornado. Tornadoes belong to America's Midwest, not Canada. Still, on July 31, 1987, an F4 tornado ripped through Edmonton's eastern suburbs, staying on the ground for an hour and traveling 23 miles. 27 people died, over 300 were injured, and the damage topped $330 million. Locals still call it Black Friday. Rest is fact 10, the province that isn't flat. Alberta's image is endless prairie under a big sky. Yet the vertical difference between its highest point, Mount Columbia at 12,293 feet, and its lowest spot in the Slave River Valley is nearly 11,800 feet. Within that range, you'll find tundra, alpine meadows, boreal forest, wetlands, and a river delta almost as much vertical diversity as Colorado. Scarce Fact 9 Frozen Bubbles. Abraham Lake, created by a dam in 1972, freezes each winter. As the ice forms, methane bubbles from decomposing material rise and solidify into translucent white discs stacked in columns. Photographers chase these glowing bubbles, which are actually flammable. A Scarce Fact 8 Hail Country. Severe hailstorms are often associated with Oklahoma or Kansas. Alberta, however, averages more insured hail damage per year than any other Canadian province. In 2020, a single Calgary hailstorm caused over $1.3 billion in insured losses in a single afternoon, the costliest hail event in Canadian history. Shoot! Scarce Fact 7, the herd that came back. Wood bison were hunted to near extinction, but today Wood Buffalo National Park shelters the world's largest free, roaming herd of about 5,000 animals. They weren't just saved, they rebounded. A fact 690 seconds, geological events usually unfold over millennia, but on April 29, 1903, at 4:10 a.m., a massive limestone slab broke free from Turtle Mountain and buried the eastern edge of Frank, covering 1.2 square miles to a depth of 46 feet in just 90 seconds. Between 70 and 90 people perished. The mountain still moves today. Os Fact 5, the line that decides everything. The Continental Divide runs through Alberta's mountains. Rain falling on the eastern slopes eventually reaches the Atlantic or Arctic, while a step westward sends water to the Pacific. The province sits right on the watershed split. The water simply follows gravity. East Fact 4 letters from the Ice Age. The most famous glacial erratic, a massive rock near Okotoks, weighs 18,200 tons and rests alone on the prairie. Carried by a glacier from Jasper over 300 miles away, it's been sitting there for 12